Who is crazy? The whole world is divided into factions and each accuses the others of being crazy. But if there are no criteria by which to judge sanity, then who can decide? Man mana bhaumad bhakto, mad yazi mam namaskuru, mam evashay yuktavyam atmanam mat prayana. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Engage your body in my service and surrender unto me, completely absorbed in me. Surely you will come to me. Here Krishna says that one should always think of him, be his devotee and worship him. This is the process of devotional service. It is not very difficult and anyone can execute it by thinking of God, offering obeisances and rendering some service unto him. Generally, people identify with some party either socially, politically, economically, or religiously. In America, there are the Republican and Democratic parties, and on the international scale, there are the capitalists and the communists. Religiously, people identify with a party as Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and so on. In India, there are social parties also, like the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. In short, to avoid belonging to some party or other is not possible. Spiritualism, however, means that we should identify ourselves with God's party. On this platform, also, there is partism in that the spiritualists call the materialists crazy and the materialists call the spiritualists crazy. We have formed a society for Krishna consciousness, and those who do not like it say that we are crazy. Similarly, a person in Krishna consciousness sees a person who is acting in material consciousness as a crazy person. Who then is actually crazy? Who decides? How are the parties involved capable of deciding? Indeed, the whole world is divided into parties, each accusing the others of being crazy. But if there are no criteria for which to judge sanity, then who can decide? If we ask any man, any common man on the street, what he is, he will reply, I am this body. He may give some further explanation by saying that he is Christian or Hindu or Jewish or that is he is Mr. So and so or whatever, but all these are simply designations he attaches to the body. In other words, they all arise from the body. When a person says that he is an American, he is referring to the body because by some accident or reason he is born into the land of America and so takes the title of an American. But that is also artificial because the land is neither American nor French nor Chinese nor Russian nor anything. Land is land. We have simply artificially created some boundaries and said this is America, this is Canada, this is Mexico, this is Europe, Asia, India. These are our concoction. For we do not find that these lands were originally divided in this way. 300 or 400 years ago, this land was not even known as America, nor was it even inhabited by white men from Europe. Even 1,000 years ago, Europe was inhabited by different peoples and called different names. These are all designations that are constantly changing. From the Vedic literatures, we can understand that this whole planet was known as Ilavarta and one king, Maharaj Bharat, who ruled the entire planet, changed the name of the planet to Bharatvarsh. Gradually, however, the planet became divided again, and different continents and sectors became known by different names. Even recently, India has been divided into a number of countries, whereas earlier in the century, India had included Burma, Ceylon, East and West Pakistan, Bengal, etc. In actuality, the land is neither Bharatvarsha, India, Europe, Asia, or whatever. We simply give it these designations in the accordance with time and influence. Just as we give the land designations, we also give our bodies designations. But no one can say what his designations were before birth. Who can say that he was American, Chinese, European, or whatever? We are thinking that after leaving this body, we will continue as American or Indian or Russian. But although we may live in America during this life, we may be in China in the next, for we are constantly changing our bodies. Who can say that he is not changing bodies? When we are born from the womb of our mother, our body is very small. Now, where is that body? Where is the body we had as a boy? We may have photographs that remind us what the body was like in past years, but we cannot say where that body has gone. The body may change, yet we have the feeling that we do not change. I am the same man, we think, and in my childhood I looked like this or like that. Where have those years gone? They have vanished along with the body and everything that came in contact with it. But although everything is changing at every moment, we are still sticking to our bodily identification, so that when we are asked what we are, we give an answer that is somehow or other related to this body. Is this not crazy? If a person identifies with something he is not, he is considered crazy. The conclusion is that one who identifies with the body cannot really be considered sane. This then is a challenge to the world. Whoever claims God's property or earth has as belonging to his body, which is constantly changing, can only be considered a crazy man who can actually establish that this is his property or that is this is his body. By the chances of nature, a person is placed in a body and is dictated to by the laws of material nature. Yet in illusion we think we are controlling that nature. Therefore Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. Material nature is pulling everyone by the ear. Just as a stern teacher pulls a student, every individual is under the dictations of material nature and is being put sometimes in this body and sometimes in that. We are now fortunate to have acquired a human body, but we can easily see that there are many other types of bodies, and by the laws of nature we can be put into any type of body according to our work. Thus we are completely in the grip of material nature. Although this lifetime we may be fortunate in acquiring a human body, there is no guarantee that the next time we will not have the body of a dog or some other animal. All this depends on our work. No one can say after my death I will take my birth again in America. Material nature will force us into this body or that. Since we are not authorities, Bhagavad Gita informs us that everything is being conducted by the supreme laws of nature, and it is the foolish man who thinks I am something, I am independent. Ahankara vimudhatma. This is false reason. Although the living entity is different from the body, he thinks I am this body. Therefore, Shankaracharya basically preached the same message over and over. Aham Brahmasmi. I am not this body. I am Brahman, spirit soul. Nonetheless, Even when we have resolved to take to the path of self-realization, Maya or illusion persists. By self realization, a person may come to realize that he is not the body but a spiritual soul. What then is his position? Void, impersonal. People think that after the demise of this body, there is nothing but nirvana or void. The impersonalists similarly say that as soon as the body is finished, one's personal identity is finished also. In actuality, however, the body can never be identified with the living entity any more than a car can be identified with its driver. A person may direct a car wherever he wishes, but when he gets out of the car, he does not think that his personality is gone. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks of the living entity in this way. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjun, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. These various bodies are like cars and they are all moving. One person may have an expensive kind of car and another person may have an inexpensive one. One person may have a new car and another person may have an old one. Should we then think that when we are out of the car of the body, the personality no longer exists? This is another kind of craziness. The void philosophy, which maintains that after death we become nothing, is also a craziness that has been contradicted. We are not void but spirit. When one attains spiritual realization, knowing himself as spirit outside the body, he can advance further by inquiring about his duty as spirit. What is my spiritual work? He should ask. Realizing one's spiritual identity and asking about one's spiritual duty is actual sanity. So much individuality and discrimination are displayed by the living entity, even in the body. Should we think that at death one's intelligence, discrimination, and individuality no longer exist? Although we may make such great plans and works so hard within the body, are we to assume that when we leave the body we become void? There is no basis for this nonsense, and it is directly refuted by Krishna at the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. Thus, the spiritual identity of individual soul continues after death. For Lord Krishna assures Arjuna of the eternality of all the individual souls assembled on the battlefield. The spiritual spark or self is within the body. From the moment of the body begins to form within the womb of the mother, and it continues existing in the body as the body undergoes all of its changes through infancy, childhood, youth, and old age. This means that the person who is within the body is present from the moment of conception. The measurement of this individual soul is so small that the Vedic scriptures approximate it to be no larger than 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. In other words, as far as human vision is concerned, it is invisible. One cannot see the soul with material eyes, but the soul is there nonetheless, and the fact that the body grows from the shape of a pea to full grown manhood is proof of its presence. There are 6 symptoms of soul's presence, and growth is one of them. If there is growth or change, one should know that the soul is present within the body. When the body becomes useless, the soul leaves it and the body simply decays. One cannot directly perceive the soul's leaving the body, but one can perceive its symptomatically when the body loses consciousness and dies. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives the following simile to illustrate this process. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Although the soul takes on new bodies, the soul does not select the bodies himself. The selection is made by the laws of nature. However, the mentality of the soul does affect this selection, as indicated by Krishna in the following verse. In whatever condition one quits his present body, in his next life he will attain to that state of being without fail. As one's thoughts develop, his future body also develops. The sane man understands that he is not the body, and he also understands what his duty is, to fix his mind on Krishna, so that at the death he can attain Krishna's nature. This is the advice of Krishna in the last verse of the 9th chapter. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Engage your body in my service and surrender unto me. Completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Every embodied soul is in the constant act of thinking. To refrain from thinking something is not possible for a moment. The duty of the individuals, therefore, is to think of Krishna. There should be no difficulty in this, nor any harm. Krishna has pastimes and activities. He comes to earth and leaves his message in the form of Bhagavad Gita. And there are so many literatures about Krishna that thinking of him is neither a difficult nor costly task. There are enough literatures on Krishna to last one a lifetime, so there is no shortage of material. Thinking of Krishna, however, should be favorable. If a man is employed, he may always be thinking of his employer. I must get there on time. If he sees me late, he may deduct from my paycheck. This kind of thinking will not do. It is necessary to think of Krishna with love. In the material world, when the servant thinks of the master, there is no love. He is thinking only of pounds, shillings, and pence, because that kind of thinking will not save us. Krishna requires that one just be his devotee. Thinking of Krishna with love or devotion to Krishna actually means service. The spiritual master prescribes various duties to enable the neophyte devotee to think of Krishna. In the Society for Krishna Consciousness, for instance, there are so many duties assigned: printing, writing, typing, dispatching, cooking, and so on. In so many ways, these students are thinking of Krishna because they are engaged in the service of Krishna. What is the duty indicated by Krishna? Madhyaji mam namashkuru. Even if we are not inclined to obedience, we must obey and offer respects. Bhakti or devotion minus respect is not bhakti. One should engage in Krishna consciousness with love and respect, and should thus fulfill his designated duties. Then life will be successful. One can never be happy by identifying himself with the material body and engaging in all kinds of nonsensical activities. For happiness, there must be consciousness of Krishna. That is the difference between spiritualism and materialism. The same typewriter, dictation machine, tape recorder, mimeograph, and machine, paper, ink, the same hand on the surface, everything is the same. But everything becomes spiritualized when it is used in the service of Krishna. This then is spiritual. We should not think that something has to be uncommon to be spiritual. The entire material world can be transformed into spirit if we simply become Krishna conscious. By ardently following the instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita and following in the footsteps of the great acharyas, teachers of Bhagavad Gita, in the line of disciplic succession, we can spiritualize the earth and restore its inhabitants to sanity.